Darren Catherine Leeds from Public Affairs. Bill Barnard, you talked earlier on about whether there's a realignment. I think that's the key question, which is on the panel. Whether they think the selection was an actual realignment or just a short-term reaction to the Bush years. The reason I say that is when you actually look at the figures, they weren't that amazing. It wasn't a landslide. In the battleground states, a lot of them were won 50% to 49%. But Iowa actually wasn't amazed by the results as they came in. So I'm wondering whether it was just a reaction to the last 8 years, or there has been a fundamental realignment.
Does anybody in particular want to take that on?
Well, I mean,
yeah,
I think that there's a couple of things to say there. Sorry, I pushed the pen and probably lost my thought. I think that in terms of the numbers, the Democrats haven't won more than 50% of the popular vote for 150 years, with the exception of FDR and LBJ. And those are exceptions for important reasons. I think that so from within that standpoint, that extra 3% that Obama got moved from a kind of solid Democratic win to what was clearly a mandate, if not a landslide. And I think but also the electoral colleges, the way that he carried the electoral colleges, I think does demonstrate to a certain degree that he's moving with the population, if you like, and that there is an attitudinal shift going on there. I think that, and it goes back to that generational point as well, that we have a sense of a younger, more tolerant, more inclusive America that's growing up, and we've seen the end. I do think we've seen the end of the '60s culture wars as we understood them. I'm not saying the culture wars are over, but the '60s culture wars that Hillary Clinton would have also extended and reignited because of the Clintons' symbolic role in that. I do think has come to an end. I don't think we're going to have another election fought over Vietnam, for instance. So that in that sense, there are the issues that are going to be determining elections, I think, are changing.
Andrew, quickly.
It seems to me that
you cannot extrapolate something as massive as that from a 3% swing. I'm sorry, the 3% is 1 in, 33 voters changing their minds. And you can't say that this is something as huge as either, as Bill said, something that's going to dominate for the next generation, or, as Dr. Churchill was saying, something which is going to change America forever. It's 1 in 33 of the voters. What I would like to say about Dr. Churchill is that I think it is fabulously brave of her to come to Edelman and denounce corporate lobbyists.
Right here, please.
Thanks. Hi, Matt Peacock from BG Group. Where does the panel think will be found the biggest gap between poetry and prose? My topic would be energy policy, looking at the administration of Kevin Rudd in Australia, another new shiny administration elected with a huge weight of expectation. Those of you who follow this will have noted that the move to a low carbon future has proven to be a very hard, high stone wall over which a new administration is struggling to climb. But what would be the panel's view of the biggest gap between poetry and prose?
Bronwyn.
Health, climate change, and Iraq. You might as well pick the most obvious things, and I'm not at all sure that America can get out of Iraq, which has been treated as quiet, problem solved, and the capacity of any one of 6 groups there to cause immediate trouble is enormous. But I agree with you on energy policy. Very slow-moving thing to try and change American policy on that. Very expensive. America doesn't have the money for it. Same on healthcare.
Right here, please.
Thank you. My name is Patricia Evans from Westminster University. There's been an argument raging in my household, in my family, for the last 2 months about what the Clintons' next jobs might be, in particular Hillary's. Really, a question to William, with your expert knowledge, do you have any inside information for us, or speculation for us? At least I have hoped that she might consider an appointment to the 43 James, or both of them, joint ambassadors. Is that too lowly for them? Are they going to take jobs in the new administration?
Yeah, Bill, I think, were you not a supporter of Hillary then?
But I was never had any problems with Obama because in policy issues you couldn't get a cigarette paper between the two of them. It's just a personality thing and commitments earlier to the Clinton administration. I don't know. We simply don't know. Certainly, Bill Clinton has a great affection for this country and he studied here, returning quite frequently. He has interest here as well with London and there's a role for her in the Senate. She will not play quite the role that Ted Kennedy has played as being an icon of the liberal wing of the Democratic Party. But nonetheless, with his eventual passing, there is an enormous leadership role in the Senate and a role for her to play, and particularly in health care. I mean, the gracious thing for the Obama administration would be to turn to her and to ask her to lead the effort along with Joe Biden in the Senate. I think that may very well take place. One very quick point, though, about is this a reaction to Bush rather than a seismic change? Certainly, this election was very much a reaction to the last 8 years, but the potential for seismic change is there. And I would argue that it's not just the swing at the presidential level. Look at what happened down ballot. It's that makes you think there is potential for significant change here. A lot will ride upon the record of the administration, to be sure, but there are things moving afoot in American politics domestically.
Thanks. There's a gentleman back there, and then the woman in red in front of him.
Peter York. New American administrations are usually payback time, and it's usually very obvious who the payback will be to in terms of individuals and money, large money groupings. It's not so obvious this time. Who does a farmer own? Who has he got to do things for?
I think that's a very good question, and it's not as obvious as it often is. I think some people would argue that he owes the unions, and that therefore it will be a more protectionist trade regime. Other people, however, would say that that's not what's going to happen. That there was some talk of that during the campaign. It looked like that, but that he's more of a pragmatist and will not move in that direction. Bill, what do you think?
On the issue of protectionism, let's be very clear. Historically, the Democratic Party was the party of low tariffs, the Republicans of high. In the post-World War II era, when American industry was dominant and could compete anywhere, it was easy to be for globalization and for free trade. It's been more difficult for the Democratic Party in particular because of certain areas of the country that we represent in the immediate past. On the other hand, protection is not a party-specific issue, it is a district-specific issue. Neither party can produce a majority from its own ranks for free trade. Whoever became president would have to do what Bill Clinton did, which was to rely upon the bulk of his own party and those he can bring along in the other party in order to resist the move towards protectionism, in order to resist the kinds of steps that were taken in the 1920s and early 1930s that made the 1930s and the Depression so disastrous.
Thanks. There's the woman here, and then there are a couple in the back. Good.
My name's Sophie Gunter and I work with the Australian government. My question is one of how do we get the excitement into British politics, I should say. Freudian slip. What has characterised what's been going on the last 48 hours is huge excitement, huge engagement. The use of the internet has brought people to vote never voted before. And what we see in the papers in Britain is apathy, dislike of corruption, and disengagement. So what does the US election mean for us? I'd like to see some more excitement and engagement. What's the plan of thing?
Yes.
I did put that point there, that one way of getting engagement will probably go down your route, which is to legislate. In Australia, you have to vote, otherwise you get fined. So, that seems to me a very straightforward way of getting engagement, and a rather proposal one. But they have put a young person who has, I think, and we can all learn from this, and it will make a difference to the UK, is that the use of this election of the internet has been something we've never seen before. The fact that he could walk away from government funding and say, I'm going to rely on my own funding, and that the Democrats have used the internet so effectively to raise so much money in such tiny amounts, means that they have reached into parts of the world that, and parts of the electorate other people haven't reached. So I think that the use of the internet is how we will see that in this country, assuming we don't go down the Australian route. Mind you, I have to say that Australians, let's work with Australians here. Another way, of course, to get a engagement is to appoint a woman as your deputy prime minister, which they have done, of course. And I'm a great favour of women in positions like this, including Sarah Palin, because it provides a lot of employment for the economy. You can't, as a woman, go anywhere on television or anywhere in public without getting your hair done, which means that you have to do that. And the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia solved that by entering into a long-term relationship with a hairdresser.